Hello everyone, welcome to episode 11 of the campaign log. Last we left off, the players were about to deal with the mirror room. They've already entered it a few times. They ended up ritual casting invisibility sphere, just walking right through and getting to the fake burial chamber. These stars with circles are statues of armored knights. They found the secret door and the false wall and checked out the coffin. The coffin sarcophagus had the name Serac ran on it. The alchemist was able to get, I think in the 60s with 8 and others for his history check. So they got information on him. They were able to, with knowledge engineering, I think it was, able to figure out that the secret door just led to effectively a one-way door that launches you through it to an earlier part of the dungeon. And they ended up they found a skeleton in the sarcophagus that they were eventually able to determine was not a Serac's actual body and that this was a fake room. Mostly, so the monk was really the only one that was figuring that out. So most of this dungeon, he's been outvoted and has been having the not great ideas, and then all of a sudden in this room, suddenly he's the only one who's like, guys, that's obviously not the lich that's in charge of the dungeon, that's just a skeleton. Anyways, they make their way into the treasure room. They decide not to fight Serac because he's a level 28 wizard cleric mystic theurge and can dual cast wish and miracle in the same turn. Because they attempt diplomacy, and more importantly because Serac worships the occult dragon, same as Vac, they're able to do diplomacy. They just barely get up to the DC because in this scenario, the others can do the aid another action to grant +2, but only Vac and his cohort, who's a psychopomp, so those two are the only worshippers of the cult dragon. Those are the only ones that can initiate the diplomacy check. So it's the higher of those two, which is not, I think it was like a 19 before aid and others, is they were barely able to hit a 30, even though, I think Jofin on his own, being a boss called, their diplomacy is a +18, but all they could do was aid another. Because of the higher diplomacy that they met, it was basically DC 20. You guys can take one item as a group because Serac does not want to take the risk of having to reform where his phylactery is because it's painful and takes time, and he's got stuff to do, for example, resetting the rest of the dungeon and refilling the now empty spots with new monsters. And they were able to get a higher diplomacy DC. They got one item each. The thing is, they wanted more items than that, so they ended up being Victor the gunslinger was the one that started it, how much does he want for the map? And I was like, well, he doesn't really need treasure. Let me look at your character sheet to see if you have anything he's interested in. He didn't have any artifacts or anything, and I was like, he could use miracle to transfer your hero points over. He'd be willing to give you a map for, I think it was 3 hero points, and the map is for underwater. So eventually they'll be doing that, but Victor isn't actually going to make it for D&D tonight, so it's just going to be for them. They're going to be doing main plot progression stuff. The monk picked out, so I did randomly roll quite a bit of loot for this room, mostly based off of the map, because I made the map and I placed some staffs around, and it's okay, 2 staffs. I rolled a d6 for the potency of the staff, which chart it was on, whether it was the the weak chart, the strong chart, or one in between charts. And then I rolled a 99 on the percentile, and it was a Staff of the Hierophant, which is like the second most powerful staff in the game without homebrew. So the monk took that. And if I just go onto his sheet, we look at Staff of the Hierophant. So not only can he... I believe we figured out the way it works is he could use it, but since he uses caster level, he's casting the spells at caster level 0. So the only things that he could really do with it, because he is a Blood Rager, is I think the only reason this works. Because he counts as a spellcaster, but with no caster level. He's gonna be only able to use like cure moderate wounds, cure critical wounds. And I think that's pretty much it, because everything else either has a duration of 0 or damage of 0. But cure moderate and cure critical are some number of d8 plus caster level, so he gets just the d8. Additionally, he can just pass it over to Vac, who's a cleric who can use all the spells and has caster level. So if they need those spells outside combat, it's gonna be easy. The staff, however, is apparently also a +2/+2 quarterstaff, which is a monk weapon, and the wielder gets a +2 luck bonus, and the monk is a luck build to AC and saving throws. So he literally picked it only for the luck bonuses, and then we realized, hey, hold on a second. Because Blood Rager is so weird compared to the other low casting classes, you can actually use it at a 0 caster level. Let's see, Vac himself, his cohort picked the lamp, and he, I think, took one of the just vases of gold, which I did some rough math based off the size, shape, and, I think I put like 5 or 10 coins per cubic inch, something like that. I don't remember. It was a while ago. But it landed at about 286,000 gold pieces. So they got a lot of money here. And a couple of them now just have like maxed out basic equipment. Joseph, the alchemist, took the other big jar of gold pieces. So he also got 286,000 gold pieces. But then he also sold not only his current hero points, which might have been like 1 or 2, he sold every hero point that he is going to get in the future up to level 20. And I think I valued the hero points at 50,000 gold pieces, but he got 650,000 more gold pieces. So in total, he got nearly 1 million gold pieces, 936,000. But he doesn't get hero points until level 21. They can still do temporary hero points with the spell, but those, have the duration thing. I think that's all he did. Jofin, the Scald, took this North treasure chest full of gold, and that had a lot of the platinum pieces in it too. So in total, Jofin got 500,000 gold. They did not make any extra deals, but just with the 500,000 gold and trading in their old magic items or having them upgraded, whatever, they now have an Amulet of Natural Armor +5, Ring of Protection +5, Ring of Resistance +5, which is the same as the Cloak of Resistance, but a ring. Headband and Mental Superiority +6. Their Morning Star has been increased to +5, and they have a Belt of Physical Perfection +4, and a Deck of Illusions, which seemed interesting, but it didn't look nearly that useful. Let's see. Victor was not really interested in a lot in the room other than the treasure map. And, at a certain point, I was like, well, Serac will offer, equivalent prize. If you're not interested in anything in the room, he has Wish, he has a lot of diamonds and diamond dust. He could just give you a +5 inherent to one of your ability scores, or 5 +1s, or whatever combination, up to 5 wishes worth of inherent bonuses. And he ended up going with +5 inherent bonus to dexterity. And then he started discussing, man, how do I get more maximum dex to my armor? And it's like, well, Jofin got a thing that's apparently you can just buy on the market, a specific armor called Celestial Armor that has like a +8 max dex bonus and counts as light armor. And he was looking at that, and his dex is +9. And then we started getting into it, and he's like, could I just use like a Mortal Wish, like just hire a wizard somewhere, any old wizard, to cast a wish on the armor to increase its max dex by +1 and just stack that or multiple wishes. And then we were kind of like, and you know, after a few minutes of conversation between me, Victor, and Vac, because Vac is like a rules master in terms of understanding how custom magic items work and the price of various effects, what they should be. We basically came to the conclusion, yeah, a wish can increase the max dex by +1, and you can stack it. You know, I was like, it's about the same as a +1 to an ability score that doesn't stack, and Vac is like, well, it's a bit more. And I was like, yeah, but it's not less enough to be 2 max dex per wish. It's only gonna be the 1. And then Victor spent 2 of hero points that he had, and Vac spent 1 of his that he already had, and they bought the treasure map off of Acererak with hero points. Let's see. Joseph already had 2 hero points and traded 11 more. The monk traded a hero point for permanent +5 magic fang, which is a normal, which just because of Acerek's caster level he'd do. That's just normal permanency stuff. Let's see. The monk also spent, it looks like, another 2 for permanent freedom of movement, which is not a normal permanency thing. Let's see. Yeah, so Monk spent all 3 of the hero points he had. Vac spent Vac spent 2 future hero points, so his hero points for level 10 and 11, on permanent True Sight, which also is not a normal spell you can get permanency. So Vac has permanent True Sight at 120 feet. He's got a bunch of other weird permanent, like weird sights. I think he like copy pasted all of them somewhere. Was it in general? Maybe. We got a lot to go through. I'm not gonna search for it. And someone spent 2 hero points on the shield, but I did not write down who did that. But the shield was for Vac. It's basically just an upgrade of his current shield, with I think the only difference being that the armor spikes aren't enchanted as weapons. Just the shield is enchanted as a shield, because I didn't know you had to enchant them separately. I think there's a feat or a fighter ability that lets the armor bonus apply to spikes or something. That is the reason I thought it worked that way. Next up, let's see, what else did people buy? Right, so Joseph, the alchemist, he's going to do some retraining. I don't remember quite what for. And he's going to spend 7 days growing 5 duplicate simulacrums, which I think duplicate just means that they're of him and not of someone else. I'll have to look into it or ask him at the beginning of session tonight. I am not really sure what it means. Let's see what else happened near the end. Right, they got the genie lamp and they started making wishes, so I gotta scroll up for a while. Here we go. So Vac got a partial half Merilith template, which is a basically archetype for the half fiend template. And he hired a very good lawyer and a wizard who can cast wishes, and has been able to do so for a while. Basically hired one of the leaders of the Mages Guild to make it as sure as possible that his wishes would not go awry. And he did very well. Mostly it was just like a grammar thing here or there that had to be fixed, but other than that, he did very well on his own. So his first wish was, get this, as many things from this template as possible without side effects in this order of priority. And all in all, he got 2 normal extra arms, except I think they're green instead of his normal red scales, because Merilith's, I want to say, are green. I don't really remember. Yeah, it's just a visual thing. It doesn't matter. He got the multi-weapon mastery ability, which means I think he doesn't take any offhand attack penalties, so not that big of a deal. He got spell resistance equal to 11 plus his hit dice, and I kind of gave him the choice, even though he wouldn't get this choice initially, because he did say without side effects. Because he wanted anything after spell resistance, any remaining power into bonus charisma. And I said, so as it stands, you're not going to get any charisma, but if you want your spell resistance to be unable to be dropped, then you'll get a +2 charisma. And he decided, yeah, I'll do that. So his spell resistance cannot be dropped, so it's significantly harder. Well, he's the healer, so it doesn't really matter. If someone else was trying to cast a spell on him, which I think is basically only Joseph, the alchemist, and his cohort alchemist, then they're gonna have to deal with spell resistance probably. The second wish was for a willing tier 3 transformative part, so a part to make a transformative out of, from an Ifriti Janissary that will result in the user gaining the wish spell-like ability, as much dexterity as possible, and not cursed or lower tier. So effectively what that did is means that, well, as it was willing tier 3, and the reason they went with Ifriti Janissary instead of regular Ifriti is that Ifriti Janissary had dexterity as its second highest ability score. So it was, you know, and the gunslinger was the one that they decided was going to be taking the transformative. So they now have access to 1 per month, a genie wish, technically, but it's only as powerful as mortal wish. But because it's an SLA, they do not have to pay the spell casting cost. So it's basically just a free wish once per month. So, you know, nothing too big. Although if Victor really dives into it and starts taking, you know, genie drawbacks from the source that genies take them from, and if he ever gets to epic levels or mythic, then he's going to start getting new stuff for it. But he also counts as a genie, so he can't get wishes from genies anymore, or he at least can't make them. Someone else can make them on his behalf. I believe we did roll. We rolled it. I'll get into that later. There wasn't much rolling to be done. And then, yes, they were not satisfied with the chance of rolling on the ability score chart. And Victor was off. Basically, I love the fun of devil deals. So I kind of just let players make them without having to like be able to make them in the moment. Basically just mentally call out like, any outsiders want anything in exchange for this type of thing. So I kind of sat there and thought, okay, so this would probably fall under greed because of this specific scenario. What would a greed devil want? And I thought about it, it's like, probably like, it's not expensive enough of a scenario for a soul to be the price. And it effectively became, yeah, there's a guy who hasn't been dying, even though he's supposed to, because he's undead, who is very greedy and is supposed to have been here a long time ago. Go kill him. So they're going vampire hunting again. The last time they went vampire hunting was in the Halloween one-shot, and it was the owner of a casino. They're basically going to be doing the same thing again. There's going to be a rich, greedy guy who's a vampire that they have to go deal with. And they were guaranteed 8+, so he was guaranteed to succeed in the role, possibly do better. So it was basically D13 plus 7 instead of a D20. And it rolled 1 short of him getting a second thing. He needed a 10, he rolled a 9. So in total, with the tier 3 willing Ifriti Janissary, you got +12 strength, +6 dexterity. He got an ability called Powerful Critical, which is homebrew, I think. It's an EX ability once per minute. After you've confirmed a critical and bypassed fortification, if any, you may increase your critical multiplier by 1. He got Detect Magic as a constant spell-like ability, limited to 20 feet. He got his Dark Vision increased by 40 feet. He gained the Wish as a once per month SLA, blah, 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 Genie, rules, blah, blah. And the Heat ability, EX, and it's a bit modified because it's more based off of the Burn ability from Alteration Sphere and Spheres of Power than is the actual. It was just Heat from the Fire Genies. Then it would just be your melee weapon, your melee natural attacks. I think only slam attacks specifically get like a d6 of fire damage, but because it's tier 3 and I want to be more applicable to anyone taking transformatives, it's all weapon attacks deal an additional 3d6 fire damage because he had an effective tier 4 transformative because tier 3 willing, and there were some number of size increases involved in that, as well as every round grappling or grappled on your turn. And then from there, I got reminded of something that had to be added on afterwards. Yeah, +8 racial bonus on melee attack rolls and the hit die bonus of +5 to knowledge checks on genies. It might have been genies and elementals. From there, that pretty much ends what we did during the session and immediately after. If I go ahead and head back over to the overworld map, not that we really need the overworld map. Actually, it should probably be in the city map. So we head into the city map. Vac has purchased some land property. I believe he took a loan out from the bank. He's also found a magic item called a fortifying stone that, if you attach it to something, increases the hardness and hit points. So he's going to be shoving those on his shield. He also did another prayer to his god for another psychopomp. He needed to find a Gestalt psychopomp that was a Vanth and Isobok. It's just two different types of psychopomp, but in one creature. Because he wanted a tier 1 willing Gestalt transformative. So he managed to bargain with one because the Isoboks like eating undead, and he was basically able to bargain the piece from the skeletal giant that they fought, because it was, like 3,000 years old. It effectively was a delicacy, and it was from a champion creature. And then there was some requirement that he has to do. I probably should have written it down. I might have pinned it, actually. I did not. But he basically owes the guy to find another undead of a certain number of hit dice, and I think a certain age as well. He has to get the corpse in pristine condition for food. He also had to, when he was rolling his transformer, decide to make a devil deal. So that way he could get the scythe ability that he wanted, which it's not that good of an ability. Basically, it basically gives him a free +1 adamantine scythe, and if it ever gets destroyed, he can summon another one in 24 hours. Thing is, if he upgrades it and it gets destroyed and it summons another one, it's not going to be upgraded. It's just going to be +1. It's really not that great of an ability. So it only took. I basically decided, well, adamantine is called sky metal. I don't really remember what that means in normal Pathfinder lore. But it's basically like, yeah, this many pounds of adamantine, you have to give it to this devil by, burning it in fire and doing a small ritual thing. Easy stuff for him. Nothing evil or, aligned in any way, really. So he gets to keep his neutral alignment. And so in total, his tier 1 Willing Gestalt Vanth Isobach Psychopomp was +6 wisdom, +4 strength, +3 fort saves, +2 on saves versus poison, the Pounce EX ability, so he gets a full attack and a charge, the Reaper's Scythe supernatural ability, which I described a minute ago, not that great. He gains the Cleave feat. He increases his Spirit Sense or Soul Sight or whatever, the same thing, different names, by 20 feet, which he has from a couple different sources somehow, because he's really diving into the theme. And +5 on knowledge checks, because it's a larger, it's like, I think I said it was like 17 hit die or something. And then he also got to roll on the ability score chart, which made it, initially he rolled necromancy, but he tried to re-roll it to divination instead, and it decided with a temporary hero point, and it ended up landing in necromancy again. At that point, he just took the necromancy bonuses of spontaneously casting necromancy spells, like the way clerics do with good or evil, or not good or evil, cure or inflict spells. And then if he got a spontaneous casting class, he would ignore the casting time, increase to 1 magic and necromancy spells. He'd prefer on divination, which was the other option. So he's going to do something about that eventually, but not immediately. Here we go. Here's his list of different sights. So he has Dark Vision 60, Low Light, True Sight 120, and he gets all of the things. All the soul sight stuff. Now, we determined his leadership score at 19. He bought a base of operations next to where effectively there's just a board of quests with a few people working there to determine, difficulty and danger of quests and organize them on the board that way. And there's like basically a big dirt field, pretty much. It's basically an enclosed block with like one street going in or out. That's like an adventurer hotspot and mercenary hotspot. So he's opening up like a partial tavern, partial like he's basically trying to start an adventurers guild because there aren't any, I decided. And the main thing he's doing is selling potions and like magic armor and swords. That should about cover it. We're gonna do a lot in session tonight when we start. That's mostly just gonna be a vac before we get into the story stuff. Joseph will also have to do some things with explaining to me what he's doing with his simulacrums. Victor won't be here, so his devil deal to go kill the vampire and to go hunt, and his treasure map to go hunting underwater won't be relevant. So it's pretty much just going to be dealing with the next story point, which if I go look over here, is going to be an evil monk. So yeah, they'll be going here, they have to sneak in somehow, and then they'll be in the secret basement, which is full of cultists, a few monks, and the Ronin, which is in their hint letter from the beginning of the campaign. One of the 3 like core second in commands for the cult that they're facing. Level 15 monk, he rolled fairly poorly on the transformative I gave him, which was adult brass dragon